Hi guys, and welcome to Train Sim Journeys, Series 4, Episode 10. And today we're going to be doing this route from Scotland, starting at Alloa. We're doing the 1925 service to Glasgow Queen Street on a pair of Class 318s, as you can probably see, in the original Strathclyde Transport Livery going back to 1986. So we've got 318260 and 318253. Doors now closed, so let's get going. So our journey will be calling on stations at Stirling, Larbert, Croy, Lenzie, Bishopbriggs and Glasgow Queen Street will be our final stop. Bit of an interesting fact about the present Alloa station. It looks a new build. Well, actually it is, because it actually dates from May 2008. It was opened back in 1850 by the Stirling and Dunfermline Railway, although in a different site altogether. It closed in May 1968, which I think if anybody can easily figure out why that is, yep, the beachy necks. No surprises there. Which I just find to me just makes absolutely no sense. And yeah, probably understand it from a modern day perspective, even though I have my own thoughts about the beachy necks situation from the 1960s. It just made no sense at the time, even to this day. The maximum 9 speed on the single line working, which is actually only part of our route between here and Stirling, which is single line, we actually get a top speed of 70 miles an hour. But it's not the fastest we'll be going today, because a little bit later on, we join up with the Edinburgh to Glasgow main line via Falkirk High. Yeah, so the top speed, of course, when we get to Edinburgh to Glasgow line via Falkirk High, will be 100 miles an hour. Probably asking, well, why am I driving 318 on this route, even though in real life they don't go to Alloa? No, they don't. But the fact is, even though I could have gone for the 385 option, which is included in the actual pack of the route for this, I decided not to. The reason for it is because had I actually gone for it, it just doesn't sound as quite as accurate realistically sound-wise that we'd have other 385. Even though in real life, actually have written one of those, although at some point in the future, when I do get round to perhaps probably spotting Scotland for the first time, which I have to say is not too far away. I'm not going to give any dates or anything, probably figure sometime probably during 2025, 2026, probably next year more likely, which I'd like to see for myself. So yeah. So I thought perhaps for this episode that perhaps a throwback livery, which is probably one of two that I will do in throwback liveries. There might be a pair of 321s in another future episode, which is probably after this. I've only got about, I don't know, I think 4 episodes remaining until I eventually close out not just the series, but also my entire 50 episodes of Train Sim Journeys. I have to say, when I looked at the 318 pack, first time I got it, not that long ago, I actually have to say, I like the interior of the 318s in the Strathclyde Transport Livery. It's just such a shame they don't have that sort of thing in real life these days. I know we kind of moan about liveries are not that great on the outside, or they just don't feel great on the inside, but, you know, I get all the PR and compliance with that stuff, but at the same time, that's a good thing about some of these Armstrong Powerhouse packs. It kind of gives you a bit of a reminder to back in the day, to when certain liveries back then were a lot different. Doesn't matter which era of transport you come from, whether it's from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, or even the present day. It's like when you get sometimes in recent times, like with, say, 455-868 on South Western Railway, because the 455s are due to go at some point. You used to have that with the Merseyrail 507s, of course with 507-001, which is being preserved. Although, as I'm recording this, it's just retired. Anyway, so we're just slowing down 60 miles an hour, and then we got to slow right down to 35 miles an hour, because that's where we're going to be joining up with the part of the route that links up the Edinburgh to Dunblane line via Falkirk, Gramston, and also part of it also links up with the Highland Main Line, which runs north of Dunblane beyond to Perth. So just before we slow to 35 miles an hour, we enter a neutral section, which is probably one of the few we're going to cover on this road. Just to the right is the connecting of the Edinburgh to Dunblane line, which runs northwards towards Bridge of Allen and Dunblane. And then the Highland Main Line from there continues on beyondwards to Perth, as other destinations such as Avonmore, all the way to Inverness, which is used by NER, with probably only just one train a day in either direction, and also used by the Caledonian Sleeper, which links up with other movements from Fort William, which provides via the West Highland Line, by Glasgow Queen Street Low Level, and Aberdeen via Dundee, which will merge up at Edinburgh, and then go from there to London Euston via Carlisle, Preston, and Croy. And also, not forgetting, it's also served by Scotrail from Glasgow Queen Street, which could be a mixture of variety with its Class 170 Turbo Stars, or Inter-7 City HSTs, but as of this upload, the fact is those days of the HSTs are numbered and are due to be withdrawn within the next several years, according to Scotrail. Procurement of its replacement is presently underway. So the only electric trains in real life that would serve Stirling is the Class 305s. In fact, NER used to have one service a day, I think actually 2 services a day, that used to run electric power on the Zoomer up to Stirling. In fact, sometimes they could run 800 on electric power to Stirling or Dunblane before they switched to diesel to carry on beyond there to Inverness. However, the Stirling to London direct, that's been withdrawn, and also the Glasgow to London's also been withdrawn direct of NER, which has been around since June 1991. Also, just to clarify that the 800s are biomodes and the 801 is electric only, which by the way most Stirling to London then yards would have been provided by 801 workings, although, as I just mentioned, once more, the fact is that is due to be withdrawn pretty soon. So here we are at our first stop at Stirling. I have to say, I wonder what the station will be like in real life. Looks pretty decent. Also, from June 2025, there's going to be an open access service that will run from London Euston to Stirling via Motherwell, which will be provided by an open access company called, and this was only changed just recently, called First Rail Stirling Limited. It would have been Grand Union Trains, but back in September this year, they've actually sold the naming rights. So anyway, just closing the doors, and our next stop on our service will be Larbert. So we now get to our next increase to 95 miles an hour between here and our next stop at Larbert. Between Larbert and the next station, which will be Croy, is where it gets a bit interesting and it can get a little bit confusing. It's just 305 just passes by. Because you've got a mixture of junctions to come. One, obviously, the line towards Edinburgh diverges towards Falkirk Graveston. We also have the connecting line that actually links up with the West Coast Main Line at Motherwell, rather surprisingly, which isn't used presently by passenger services, although with the new First Rail Stirling open access operation from London Euston Stirling, they will be using that to link up between Motherwell and Larbert. And then after that, eventually we'll join up with the Edinburgh to Glasgow via Falkirk Line, which runs via Falkirk High. So we're just slowing down to 70 miles an hour as we approach our next stop at Larbert. As I mentioned about the confusing series of junctions that's to come south of Larbert, well, we'll be getting that straight after we leave.
Platform 1. S4 Glasgow Queen Street. This service is running on time.
So here we are at Larbert, first opened by the Scottish Central Railway in 1848. There's a bit of an interesting fact about this place. It also has a memorial plaque and a station building facility in memory of the Quinton's Hill rail accident from May 1915, which sadly the train involved originated from Larbert, which carried military personnel involved in an awful collision which claimed the lives of 227 men, which to this very day remains Britain's worst ever rail accident. So with the doors closed, we're now going to head to our next stop at Croy. So here we go, approaching the first and series of junctions. So the first one here is the line towards Edinburgh, diverges to the left, that heads towards Falkirk, Grahamston. We also enter a neutral section. Just got to slow down to 50 miles an hour. We've got another connecting line from the left. The Garfield must be like, I don't know, I'm not used to the Scottish mainline routes, apart from the West Coast and East Coast mainline, but my only guess there must be like a bypass route to Falkirk, Grahamston. I'm not too sure. Well, one day when I do go to Scotland, eventually I'll learn a lot more about this. can just see out to the left is the Edinburgh to Glasgow Falkirk line, which is about to join up. But first, here's the junction. I think it's called the Green Hill Down Branch Junction. And this is actually the junction for the connecting lines from Larbert as we enter another neutral section. So that's going to be used by First East Stirling for their open access services in June 2025. So that will link up, from there, we'll link up to Motherwell and the West Coast Main Line. Not sure what trains they'll use on First Route Stirling. We'll have to see. So anyway, we're just joining up with the Edinburgh to Glasgow line, and then, good news is, we get to increase our top speed for this entire journey, which is 100 miles an hour. I have to say, leaving my braking very late as we're about to arrive into our next stop at Croy. Well, the modern train is very easy to get down from 100 to 0 when you get to Croy, but with the 318, I actually did a couple of test runs on this prior to calling this. It wasn't that easy.
The train now approaching platform 2 is for Glasgow Queen Street. This service is running on time.
So here we are at Croy, first opened by the former Edinburgh and Glasgow Railway, opened way back in February 1842. The accessible footbridge you've got here actually dates from October 2022, very recently. So just about to leave Croy. Doors will close in just any second now. There it is. The next stop for this service will be none other than Lenzie. So, on to Lenzie we go. By the way, just to point out, if this route does sound familiar to you, well actually I covered this route back in 2021 in my very first series of train sim journeys. But that was on a 365. The only thing is different that back then, the wires was an extra feature that came from a scenario from Steam Workshop for the wires, which actually they weren't very accurate compared to the ones you got in this game. So we're just slowing down now as we prepare to arrive in our next stop at Lenzie. In fact, trains that go to and from Alloa, in fact, called at all stations if you're going to and from Glasgow Queen Street.
The train now approaching platform 2 is for Glasgow Queen Street. This service is running on time.
So here we are at Lenzie, bit of a history video, originally opened as Kirkintilloch Junction in July 1848. It was renamed to Kempsey Junction in December 1849, renamed again to Lenzie Junction in 1867, and the present name dates from 1890. Oh look, there's the diagram to say 1958 to Glasgow Queen Street, calling at Bishopbriggs only. Speaking of Bishopbriggs, that's where our next stop is going to be. So, with doors closed, let's get to our next stop at Bishopbriggs. By the way, Lenzie, it actually was a series of junctions to the east of the station, which actually used to connect with the Dickensie branch to Kirkkentilloch, which lasted until 1964 when it was closed by beaching. And also there was other connections to Garqueen South Junction and Garshirley North Junction, not just both with the Caledonian Railway line, but also to other places such as Coatbridge, Sunnyside, via Maltland and the Kirkkentilloch Railway. So our next stop, we're just about to start slowing down any moment now. And also we can start reducing our top speed down from here, from Bishopbriggs, which of course will lead us into the final approach to Glasgow Queen Street. But before we get to Glasgow Queen Street itself, we've got to make our last intermediate stop before there at Bishopbriggs itself.
The train now approaching platform 2 is for Glasgow Queen Street. This service is running on time.
So here we are at our final intermediate stop before Glasgow Queen Street. Here at Bishopbriggs, which opened by the former Edinburgh and Glasgow Railway in 1842. And also just when we would have whining noises in the background, well, that's just the sound of the 385 just pulling into platform 1 coming from Glasgow Queen Street. The trouble is now, since he's on the platform, that's going to drown out the noise of the doors closing on 318. But fortunately, at least we could hear the doors closing on 318. And by the sounds of it, we're probably going to be leaving at exactly the same time as the 385 leaves too. So that was a 50-mile-an-hour warning speed limit, which would be our speed into Queen Street Tunnel, which would be the last tunnel before we arrive into Glasgow Queen Street. But that's not technically our final speed limit, because there is a hidden 30-mile-an-hour followed by a 20-mile-an-hour limit in into the platforms at Glasgow Queen Street. So whilst we are picking up our speed for now, but we will have to slow right down pretty soon. So expect a couple of warnings from the automatic warning system, or AWS. So instead of going up to 70 miles an hour, I'm going to just maintain it at 60 for now, and then start slowing down to 50 miles an hour. So we're starting our final approach towards Glasgow Queen Street. So to the right is the connecting line to the Mary Hill line, which runs services to and from Glasgow Queen Street to and Eastland. And it's also used by the services that use the West Highland line to destinations such as Fort William and Mallock, as well as Oban. So the Mary Hill line joins them on the right, and then the next junction to the left, that leads towards Springburn. There's the other connecting line from Springburn itself. Just get the AWS warning. Now start our final approach as we begin the descent into Queen Street Tunnel with a 30 mile an hour speed limit coming up. Then we should have a 20 mile an hour limit into our final stop at Glasgow Queen Street via platform 2. Now into Queen Street Tunnel, as we've got the AWS warning. That's for the 20 mile an hour limit seen there. As you can probably see, that before we descend into Glasgow Queen Street, because we're on a gradient, so it means that when I throttle back to 0, technically means the train will still be picking up speed. So that's why I've opted to slow down a bit earlier. That's my final AWS warning. And then we should get the route indicator a little bit further on, so our train speed to pick back up again. Another AWS warning. There it is. So we get the route indicator into platform 2 at Glasgow Queen Street. Glasgow Queen Street high level, because it's also served by low level services, the one by Charing Cross Glasgow. The services are mainly one to Springburn via Bells Hill and Edinburgh via Airdrie, as well as also other destinations such as Balloch, Belmuir and also Helensburgh Central, as well as Milgave. They also have 2 branch lines. They split between Highland and Dalmuir, so one goes by Yoka and the other goes by Sina. Anyway, so into our final stop here at Glasgow Queen Street via platform 2. As you can see, the station building area, it actually dates from a complete overhaul between 2017 and 2021. It actually replaced the old station buildings that date back to the 1960s. And as for the platform layout itself, that had to be completely remodelled for the electrification from Glasgow Queen Street to Edinburgh by Falkirk and so on, and also being able to fit the Class 385s onto the platform. And there we are, arriving in to our final destination at Glasgow Queen Street. So there we are, our final destination at Glasgow Queen Street high level platforms. So that will do for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Leave a like, share, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I'll do the best I can to upload more quality content as soon as possible. So until my next video, have a good one. Bye guys.